Hi, Bethany Warren here, and you've joined us for the return of the magnificent monthly Millwall No One Likes Us Talkin podcast. It's a new team with a just as entertaining show. Enjoy.
Hello guys, and welcome to the second episode of the No One Likes Us Talking monthly podcast. Joining us tonight, we've got a new guy. I mentioned him last week, Kai Bennett, and the fans' favourite, Phil Coleman. This is Kai's first time on the show, so I'm going to let Kai introduce himself and then we'll move on.
Hello, I'm Kai. Delighted to be joining Gary and Phil tonight. Should be good. I've done a bit of work, done a bit of stuff for my old YouTube channel called Millwall Fan TV, which I've taken a little bit of a break for now, just to keep up with schoolwork and assignments. But I do some stuff for the South London Press, just voluntary stuff at the time. But yeah, I'm enjoying that, and it's good to see Millwall picking up on the pitch. So yeah, can't wait to get started.
Thanks, Kai. Thanks. Everyone, look out for Kai because he's going to be something in the future. So tonight we'll be discussing the season so far, and then the second part of the show we'll be looking at injuries. So, gents. Since we last spoke on the monthly podcast, what have you all been up to? I'll start with Kai, as I know Mr. Coleman has been speaking to a Millwall legend. Kai, what have you been up to recently, apart from all your publicity stuff?
Just finishing cricket season. Obviously it's October now, but we've managed to play into October, which is early October, which was good fun. Missed that. It's sort of my Sundays and Saturdays are sort of clear now, which is strange. Tend to miss cricket at the weekends for Millwall. You can't miss Millwall on a Saturday, can you? There's no excuse for that. Sundays was my cricket day, but that's clear now. So yeah, just chilling recently. Excellent.
And now I'll pass over to Mr. Coleman to describe who he's been speaking with.
Good evening, guys. Great to be back on the show again. As I probably mentioned in the last one, it's been a bit of an up and downer for me the last couple of months. Lost my mum, who was a big Millwall fan and followed me and my brothers around the country. And then I went into hospital and had a hip replacement. It's 50 years of playing football, the wear and tear. Great support from the PFA, the Footballers Union. And I'm 7 weeks after the operation, and it's been tough. You're not allowed to drive, you're not allowed to do this, you can't walk, you can't run, you can't kick a ball. And as a PE teacher, player, I don't do injuries, can't stand not being able-bodied, shall we say. But I'm sitting there on Sunday last week, and the phone goes about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I thought it was somebody selling me, but I thought, hang on, it's Sunday. I didn't recognise the number, other than it was from abroad. Fortunately, I pressed hello, Phil, that's Brian King here. Brian King's phoning me from Norway, where he lives, to talk about a podcast that I did the week before and how he thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is probably one of Millwall's greatest keepers. This is somebody that was the first ever goalkeeper I saw at the Den as a 13-year-old on the terraces. And the bloke is phoning me up to say he liked some of the stuff that I chatted about. We then spent about 40 minutes. I mean, my Sunday dinner was going cold. To hell with a Sunday dinner. I'm talking to Brian King, you know. And he waxed lyrical about Barry Kitchener, how the game's changed, which we could touch on later on, from basically ploughed mud to lightweight balls, heading balls. All we ever did was head. And he mentioned some fantastic characters, and I'll just give a mention out to a lovely bloke, tough as they come, Jack Blackman. And Brian and myself, just spoke about Jack in glowing terms to each other on the phone on Sunday. So he sent me a lovely message afterward, Brian, just thanking me for having a chat on a Sunday afternoon. And I've got his book now, so I've got his book. I'm looking at it now on the cabinet here. And I shall be spending a few hours reading through some of the stories that he tipped me off on the other day. So that's what I've been up to, guys. So, thankful for that.
Excellent. Interesting. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall with that conversation there, Phil. Right.
Yeah, there's some interesting stories.
I bet there was. Right, we'll take a break there, and when we come back, we'll be discussing the season so far.
We know that some men can struggle to talk about how they're feeling after the death of a baby. We hope that by building trust and a common bond, by playing together as a team, many more will be able to break their silence about baby loss and help others to do the same. Sand United FC has already saved the lives of men left feeling like they had no one to turn to in their grief. Are you a father who has lost a child? Talk to Sand United. They will help. Contact them on sufclondon@gmail.com. That's sufclondon@gmail.com. They will help.
Right, welcome back, Kai and Phil. Well, when we last spoke, we had a pretty slow start to the season. Now, strangely enough, we're 7 unbeaten, with 3 wins and 4 draws, sitting comfortable in 11th in this league, with 15 points and 3 points outside the playoffs. My first question, has Gary silenced the Gary Out Brigade? What do you think, Kai?
I think we've done really well in the last couple of weeks since the international break. Obviously, it started off with a really good 1-1 draw against West Brom, which, to be honest, we were quite unlucky not to win that game, weren't we? I thought we were really good that game. And five unbeaten it was before Bristol City and Barnsley, and obviously 4 of them were draws, 1 win. And obviously, it didn't look 5 unbeaten didn't look as good because of them draws. But the last 2 wins has really put a little bit of put the shine on that unbeaten run, and it's shown that we are a good side. We're hard to break down, and if we could be a little bit more, we could gel a little bit more in the final third. We could be a really good side. So yes, I think Rowett has in the last couple of games, in the last couple 3-4 games, has sort of started to make a bit of progress there. So that's good times, hopefully.
I can't disagree there, Kai. I think we're just hard to beat. We are a very hard team to beat, and to be honest, when we concede a goal, I actually get surprised now because it's such a rarity. And the back 4, and now with Cooper starting to get back to his best, and Malone getting injured. I know he got injured, but who do you drop out? Do you drop out Wallace? Do you drop out Malone? It's one of those, or even Cooper, or even we've got 5, 6 players there who are a solid back forward if you include Ballard and McNamara. And it's just, where do you fit them all? It's like we've got such a strong team there, but knowing Millwall's luck at the moment, and we're going to get onto injuries later, we could be down to 3 within 2 weeks. No, Millwall, but we'll discuss that later. But Phil, who would you put? There you go. Here's a question. Who would you take out if you've got a fit Cooper, a fit Hutchinson, a fit Ballard, McNamara, Malone, and Wallace? Who's the one you drop?
Cooper.
Really?
Without a doubt.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Right, football's all about opinions, and there's been an awful lot of, I don't know whether social media exacerbates it, but there has been some negative comments, and yeah, I've seen, after 3 games, Rowett out, and we've got useless scouts, and the training's crap, and we want change and everything else, and there's negatives, but it's Millwall, not Brazil, and Gary Rowett has come in, and over the last 2 or 3 seasons, he has chipped away at improving a squad. And I look at the squad now, and I look at the players, and to me, they're all professional, championship standard players. Yeah. I couldn't say that 3 years ago when they come up, 4 years ago when they come up into the championship. But I look at who he's got in. We've gone and got a damn good Liverpool loanee. We're loaning players from Liverpool. We've got a Fobi. We have got this. The players are beginning to come now. Is it they want to play for Millwall in the Championship? Is it they want to play for Gary Rowett? But what Gary's done, he's put together what I would call. You have the negatives from fans, but the positives. I'm going to look at the positives. He's got professional, honest players. There's an honest team there. There's no shirkers in that team. The team, as you mentioned earlier, just now, it's tight, it's solid, it's well drilled. Everybody buys into what Gary's doing. There's some very good players, but there's also what I call a few X-factor players. And the X Factor players, Ballard is one. As a defender, I think he's quality. Obviously, Jed will create, possibly needs some support. But then you've got the guys that have just come in. You know, Afobe, I pray he scores goals because he just looks like that type of player. The lad from Liverpool, he just looks like he's got pace. Keith, he's another boy. He just oozes class in the centre of the park, and he's got what I would call as a little trait to Terry Hurlock with him. He puts a few tackles about. There are three, perhaps four players. You could play him in every position. Absolutely vital if you're not going to have a giant squad. You know, you could put Evans at the back. You could put Wallace in the centre of the park. You could put him up the left-hand side. Some of the young players have gone out on loan. So there is this really good squad. Did it start off consistently? No. Who was at the heart of the problems for me? It was Cooper. And I've seen Cooper over many years down there. And the reason why I say I think the others are now better. And I think Cooper lacks pace. And the one thing you need as a centre-back is a bit of pace. And it's his first 3 or 4 steps off the mark. And I thought at the start of the season, some of these headed goals, I think 1 or 2 clubs might have been playing on him. Putting the ball in there and just getting across him really quickly, 2 or 3 steps, headed it in the net. So I like Hutchinson. I think he's a top player. I like Ballard. Wallace, I think, gives you plenty. Evans and Kifton could come in as well. So for me, it may well be Cooper. 6'7", 6'8", great in the air. But I just think when you come to a championship and you're going and playing against some of these really quick thinking and pacey strikers, you probably need Ballard and Hutchinson more than anybody else. And for me, that's why I said Cooper. So yeah, I mean, a lot of fans will totally disagree with that, but I've got that pace thing as a defender that I have a question mark over it.
Phil, I'll be one of the ones that do disagree with you, but you make a very strong point. I personally would have taken Wallace out. I know he's been absolutely outstanding for us, but I just think Malone is better in that left-sided position. And I know Wallace been playing inside there, but I would like to see the 3 Wallace, Cooper, Hutchinson and Ballard as a 3 at the back. I think that is obviously Rowett's dream, but we'll have to wait and see. But moving forward, look, we're not conceding goals, we're conceding odd goals. But do you think we're not taking our chances, Kai? Do you think we're just creating a lot and not really doing much? We're not killing teams off, are we?
No, I think we make it quite difficult for ourselves at times. I think the Barnsley game, even though the first half wasn't the best, we didn't play the greatest football. I thought in the second half, we really penned them in, didn't we? I think their only real chance was that Freezer flick that hit the side netting. Without actually really creating too many chances, we looked the more likely team to score the goal. And there was a couple of chances where we're nearly in. Like Jeb was in that time, and I think it was Liam Kitchen who pulled off a really, really good defensive block. And there's a couple times like that you just feel like we sort of maybe choose the wrong pass, or not on that occasion. Obviously, it was a great pass, but other occasions when Savile's got the ball, or any of the midfielders, we play it out wide, get it really wide to Jed or Ojo or whoever we get it to. And instead of maybe taking that touch, we rush things and we don't get things, either not in quick enough or we take too long. And I think that's where we miss a few good chances in terms of getting good chances. And then obviously when we sometimes do get chances, like Matt Smith came on the other day against Barnsley, and he's been fantastic recently, Smith, hasn't he? But he had a great chance as soon as he came on. He goes straight at the keeper, and I think if we them sort of fine margins, they fall for us rather than go against us. I think we'll be winning games a lot more comfortably than we are.
Do you agree, Phil?
Yeah, I've got the fixtures in front, and it's only the Swansea game that we haven't scored. We've scored in every game. Now, it might only be 1-1 QPR, 1-1 Blackpool, Blackburn, 1-1 Coventry. But then I looked at it and I'm thinking, I think I said this before, QPR was a 30-yarder. Blackburn was a crap header, he's nicked across. West Brom, 1-1, we had chances. Swansea, we had chances. Coventry, the offside goal disallowed. We could have won that one. Forest, what a fluke from out on the touchline. So we're tight, we're scoring goals. Now, we're not scoring 3, we're not scoring 2, we're getting 1. But because we're so tight, we're drawing games, but we're winning games. And I was quite surprised when I saw this. We have scored in every game except the Swansea game. Even scored against Cardiff when we lost 3-1. And there's been the offside goal and the fluke. We've beaten some. We've played some teams. I think I'm right in saying that Blackpool and Coventry, they've gone on to beat some of what I would be classed as the top teams. So in a league where everybody can beat everybody, the top teams will end up being the top teams. Your West Broms, possibly, and Fulham's, based on budgets, and the Mitrovics of this world. But if Blackpool can beat the top teams, and Coventry, and we've given Blackpool, we've beaten them. We Coventry, offside goal. So, and I also looked at some of the games, West Brom and Swansea. We've actually created one-on-one chances with a keeper. We've been one-on-one several times. Now we've not taken them. Why is that? We'll touch on injuries later, but you've got to build partnerships. And the one partnership, the toughest partnership, is the one between midfield, attacking play, and the strikers in the box. They pay £150 million, £100 million for goal scorers because that is the toughest thing in the whole of football to do. The onion bag, putting it in there, is the toughest thing. People pay absolute fortunes for these people because they've got a knack, they've got the ability, they're great in the air, and they've got pace. Have we? Well, we might not have, but you have to build partnerships. When Jed gets to the dead ball line, does he stand it up for the back post because he's got Smith there in the air? Does he whip it in near post because Afobe's going to dart in there? So you've got to build these partnerships, and I'm not seeing the last third connecting just yet. When it does, boy, we've scored these goals. Yeah. But it's the same as a goalkeeper and the two centre backs. It's the same as the right back and the right winger, or wing backs. Are both wing backs going to get forward? One's crossing it and one's on the back post trying to head it in. So you've got to build these partnerships. We're still only 10 games into the season, plus a bit and a pre-season matches. It takes time. It takes absolute time to build these partnerships. So that will be the icing on the cake.
You started off by talking about the games at Coventry and the fluke goal at Notts Forest. You put those 4 points back into the game, into the league. We're in the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
Two games, 2 free goals, one disallowed goal which should never have been disallowed, and 1 free goal which the guy would never score again in his lifetime. You know what I mean? And we were in the playoffs. That's typical Millwall luck, as you say, but it doesn't. It's not much. We're not far away. And no. I know we're going to draw him, but you hit the nail on the head. It was a screamer at QPR, and West Brom's a great result going up there. Okay, Cardiff's the only real blip, and Fulham. But as you say, Coventry put 4 past Fulham the other day. Yep. It's like it can be done, and we caught Fulham. I don't know what it's about. Fulham Arsenal place, they've got a bit of a voodoo over us, and Mitrovic always seems to score against us, but we are a decent side. And even my dad said after the Leicester game, he said, I just watched that game on, I think he got it on iPlayer or whatever he was. We're not too far away, and that was our reserve side. I think I said it on the last pod. That was our reserve side, and if he's growing that through every player in that team, look at the depth we've got now. Just by adding a couple more players, not losing any, bar 1 or 2, not losing any main players in that squad. And you've got the likes of Alafi coming back. You've got, I'd like to see Marlon Romeo come back. Hopefully feeling a bit better after his trip down to Portsmouth. And you've got the kid who's gone up, I think it's Harvey Brown or Tate Brown, gone up to Scotland. You've got all these good youth players coming through as well. We are a good solid side. If we don't go knocking on the door this season, and heaven forbid Gary does get the sack, the next manager's importing a really good strong side. And there's youth coming through as well. When you look at the youth teams, look, I can only see a bright future for us at the moment. And like we said earlier off air, we don't need money to produce a good team. We're building it from within.
I'd also turn around and say, Gary, that you've covered the Coventry and the Flores fluky goals. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but we went away to West Brom and Swansea, and I think we created great chances, 1-on-1 with the keepers, and their keeper has worked to keep them in the game. Now, if you can go playing away from home is a different kettle of fish. You know, I was part of a team that we couldn't. I think we've got a record for the longest period of time not winning a game in 79, 80, 81 or whatever it was. And I can tell you now, George Petchett, he tried everything. He told us to go out on a Friday night down the pub in places like Nottingham and do what he was pulling every single trick to try and win an away game. So when you go away to Blackpool and Swansea, you're coming back with good draws, and you've played half decent, and you've created a few one-on-ones with a keeper. It's not all bad, and you do need a bit of luck. And when Millwall fans talk about, oh, it's a draw, I seem to remember about 1988, Hull City, we skanked to 1-0 with a penalty. Is that right?
Is that the
promoted?
Kevin O'Callaghan?
Yeah, well, that was a 1-goal, 1-0. And everyone, that's the best game some of the fans have seen in the history of their lives. 1-0. We didn't go to Hull and win 6-0 and win the league. So you do nick wins, you do nick points, and it's an accumulation over 46 games, not 10. But if you've got the foundations of we are tough to beat, we've got a solid back division, we know how to defend, and then you're just going to get that partnership going forward. In the last third, the toughest bit in football, are we going to get it with Smith in the air? Are we going to get it with Ojo's pace? Are we going to get it with Bennet and Phil? Is it going to be Jed? Oh, I just mentioned 4 attacking players there that can score goals. Yeah, we've got them in the squad. They're there. It's just building the final third and that knowledge and understanding up top.
Can't disagree. Right, I'll tell you what we'll do there. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about injuries. But I'll introduce little Harvey Brown at this point.
Have you heard of the Lions Food Hub? It is now located in the Millwall Community Trust car park. That's beside Millwall's Den in Ballina Road. That Millwall Lioness, Kelly Webster, is involved. Don't forget to help the Lions Food Hub if you can. Thank you.
Right, I'm Gary Staff, and I'm back with the No One Likes Us Talking monthly podcast team of Kai Bennett and Phil Coleman. Right, now we're going to move on to the main section of today's episode, and I know Phil's got a lot to say about this, and I've just written one note down, which I'm going to put in a little bit later on in the conversation. So this season we've had more than our fair share of injuries. Not like us, we're not a team that really has a lot of injuries. We might have the odd player here or there, but at one point this season we had 9 players out injured. I believe I'm correct in saying that. What do you think has happened this season? Do you think the club's made changes or changes to methods? We'll start with you, Kai, but what do you think? Is there something different happened this season, or do you think it's just bad luck?
I'm not sure. I've thought about this quite a few times, and it's just like, every time we get, as I think Gary Rowett as mentioned before, every time we seem to get a couple of players back, we get a couple of players or 3 players go, and it's a bit strange. It's hard. It's sort of hard to put your finger on it and what it is. But it's really unlucky, isn't it? And sometimes you think, God, what is our luck like? I mean, sometimes we've got Bennet and Phil was out for a couple of weeks, and I think if he was there at West Brom, I think we probably win the game. And there's so many games that we probably win with the players there. You know what I mean? So the last 2 games, Rowett's had a pretty decent side to, well, apart from Malone for Barnsley, he had his full strength side for the last 2 games, and we picked up 2 wins. So it does show you how big that our players that were out are to us. I mean, Hutchinson's huge, Matt Morrow's huge. I mean, it's really hard to put your finger on. Maybe it's the training. Maybe they're not doing enough warm ups. Maybe they're working. Maybe they're trying to impress the manager too much in training, and therefore doing pulling muscles. And that's what it seems to be, isn't it? It's muscles rather than pulling muscles, rather than sort of big challenges coming in on them. It's more pulling a groin or pulling a hamstring or pulling a it's very frustrating, but I just wonder what it is. But yeah, it could be any of them. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we can kick on now and have less injuries in the future.
And right, Phil, what do you think? The point I was going to make was, Phil, and we'll probably get onto this a little bit later on, but head injuries, and people like saying now we can only head the ball 6 times in training or stuff like that. Unfortunately, this is my own personal opinion, no one else's, none of the club or whatever, but surely the horse has bolted on that one. The footballs you were probably playing with, Phil, were a lot harder. Correct me if I'm wrong, were you playing with a multiplex back in the day, which was, if you had a tiny bit of water on it, it was like heading a brick. They were the balls you were heading then. Now, we're literally heading a sponge, aren't we, really?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking and literally last weekend, I went to some non-league games and had a little look, and we're talking about the state of. I'm bridging playing my early day football in the late 60s right the way through to now, and seeing almost an evolution of the game, and with it as a change in injuries. If you can play back to my day as a kid, as an apprentice at the club, as a pro, and going around and playing football, the goalkeeper, we headed it. He kicked it, we headed it. The throw-ons, we headed it. The free kicks, we headed it. The corners, we headed it. What you're seeing now is hardly any heading in a game. If you take the Man United centre-back, he might head the ball 3 or 4 times. I probably headed the ball 44 times in a game. It was all about getting the ball into the opposition's penalty area, long balls from keepers, long balls from defenders, and we headed it. So I volunteered about 3 years ago through the PFA, the Professional Footballers Association, our union, and I went to the Institute of Sport in Tottenham Court Road, and I spent 5 hours going through all the brain scans. It was scary because I didn't know what to expect. And you've heard about Jeff Astle, and God bless him. He's a high-profile heading the ball and dementia, and there's been others as well. But you've got to remember there are millions of people playing football, including me. And when I went into the Institute of Sport for these tests, I sat down with a top neuroscientist, and he asked me, "So, how many times were you knocked out in your football career?" And I said, "Probably about 10." And his jaw dropped open.
Wow.
Well, how many times were you concussed? Once a week. And he fell off the chair at this stage. And then how many times did you see stars? Well, they swept him up and took him away when I said nearly every day. Because those miters, and you were doing 30 or 40 repetitive heading drills per day. I had a little pact, Peter Glazier, the old keeper, we signed pro on the same day, and we said to each other, "Look, I'll smash you 30 shots and you throw me up 30 headers a day, and we'll do our little bit extras at the end of training." So I was doing that. But if you caught one on the temple, you saw stars. Well, nowadays you'd be off for 6 weeks. You know, I got smashed in the head, 5 stitches. I'm staggering all over the place against Talkin United in the FA Cup. I've gone off the pitch. I haven't got a clue. Apparently, they sewed me up with 5 stitches, no anaesthetic. They put plastic skin on it and sent me back on the pitch. And apparently, I lasted another 5 minutes before they hooked me off, and I just had to go and lay down. You know, so it was brutal back then. I'm really lucky and thankful that all my scans, the MRI scan, the CAT scans, the cognitive tests, all came back perfectly normal. So whilst I'm not going to denigrate and put down the Jeff Astles, and there is a link with dementia from heading a ball, well, I did my bit and I'm fine. And I hope I'm fine for another many, many years. But all these players that are heading a ball, it's far reduced from what it used to be in terms of the weight of the ball, the techniques that they're using. The speed of the ball has probably increased, but it's certainly not that heavy thing, and it's certainly not the repetition. And if they're cutting it down in training as well, then they've got a chance of not having some of the concussions and the scars, and my teeth have been knocked out in my career. So in terms of head injuries, that's one thing. In terms of the club, I'll be honest with you, injuries is probably my specialist subject. I've had about 40 serious ones. I had a leg break. A guy called Nigel Callaghan broke my leg 4 days before the start of the season. My brother Nick snapped his cruciate 4 days before the start of the Division 1 season. He came back and snapped his other cruciate, and was out of the game at 24. I've had a dead leg. As innocuous as a dead leg might seem, I was out for 6 weeks because it bled through the whole of my thigh and it became like a lump of concrete. I've had my cartilage out. I've got a wire in my big toe. I've now got a titanium hip. I've had the head injuries. I've had the stitches. I've had the groin tears. I've also had a punctured lung. I played against Chesterfield.
How'd you manage that?
Yeah, Chesterfield away. I've gone to head the ball. I've stooped down in the centre circle to head the ball, and their big centre forwards need me in the ribs. My ribs broke and punctured my lung. Yeah. My tongue's gone down my throat. I'm carried off the pitch. I can't breathe. I actually, to this day, remember it. It was December 1983 at Chesterfield, and I couldn't breathe at all. I've gone off to the Chesterfield Royal Infirmary. Doctors worked their magic by basically doing nothing. They just left me in a corridor on this bed in absolute agony. Couldn't breathe. My lung had deflated, so I couldn't breathe. And when you're in the 30th minute of a football match, you want as much oxygen as you can. I've got nothing. By about 6 o'clock, the coach has turned up. I'm still in my kit. I'm still in my boots. And I got on the coach and went back home. I should have been in hospital for a week. I was back in the pub that night. I couldn't breathe. I had to go home, and the rest is history. Because 6 weeks later, I was out for 6 weeks until the lung reinflated.
Wow!
Can you imagine that now? Having a punctured lung on a football pitch. You just got on with it. After all those injuries, I will say the most painful one was a bloody ingrown toenail. Oh my God! But that's another story. But all of what I'm saying is the vast majority of my injuries, 70s, 80s, whatever, were contact, were blows. I'm seeing Millwall now. I think you touched on it earlier, Kai. You touched on it that there's probably groin strains and hamstring strains and thigh strains. Is it the pitches and the contact? Well, it's almost non-contact because the referees, they've sanitised the game from some of the tackles that I got that broke your leg. We're now in the realms of the game is fast. These guys are athletes. They're sprinting. It's akin to Usain Bolt running 100 metres. If he's not conditioned to run that fast, there's likely to be some fibre tears. And what you've got with these guys, they're classed as athletes. They're classed as worth a lot of money in terms of wages, in terms of their position in the squad. So the slightest niggle, they're out for 2 or 3 weeks. Are they really injured? Well, back in my day, you played on with a broken leg. I played against Watford and he actually broke my leg and I carried on playing for 10 minutes. All I knew was something was clicking and squelching around my shin. In the end, the adrenaline got me through. I knew something was wrong because it was clicking and squelching. And in the end, I had to go off. But the blows have been replaced by speed, by twisting fast. And I think if all the 9 players that have been injured recently all had the same injury, I'd be really concerned with the type of training. I think they're all different, but there might be a theme running here that when you've got athletes and the game is fast and you're on a bowling green of a pitch and the ball's travelling fast and some of the Fulham players are absolute grease lightning, you're twisting faster, you're sprinting faster, you're pushing off quicker. These explosive movements are causing injuries rather than what we had in the 70s and 80s, which were blows and concussions and that sort of stuff. So I'd look at the training. No player deliberately sets out to be injured, but they do happen. Listen, my brother, Nick, you don't do the whole of a 6 or 7 week pre-season training and you're going to play in Division 1 for the first time in the club's history. He headed the ball back to the keeper, landed on his knee, snapped the cruciate, out for a whole year. This stuff happens, but they're so well looked after as well. And I've got a great story here. Back in the day, we had 15 pros. I think Millwall got 29, 28. Some are out on loan and some are young kids, but they've got a lot more. We had 15 pros. 1 or 2 injured, might have had 1 suspended. You only had 1 sub. Now, I was unfortunate enough to be the 13th player this particular game. 11 on the pitch, 1 sub, and my physio was a 65-year-old. So I had to be the physio. I'm 28 years old and I'm the physio. I've got to run on with the Jack Blackman proverbial inner lining of a ball, cold water and a sponge. Before I ran on, I had to look at the 65-year-old physio sitting in the seats behind me and he'd give me instructions, just put the sponge down his neck. He'll get up, then come back and tell me what he's done. So I ran on the pitch, put the sponge down his neck, he got up, it's me leg. What you done? Well, I think I twisted my ankle. I'd run off, I'd tell the 65-year-old physio in the stand, I think he's twisted his ankle, and he'd say, tell him to play on. He's all right. And I was the physio. I'm a player. And
why was that? Why wouldn't they let the physio?
We didn't have any money. We didn't have any money. And the physio was an outstanding physio. He'd been with England and Crystal Palace and all these clubs. Charlie Simpson, God bless him, was the best physio, but he couldn't run on the pitch because he was getting on a bit. So the player did the running on and Charlie did the physioing. Nowadays, you've got the latest sports science. You've got the latest medical teams. You've got the latest strength and conditioning. Listen, I'm delivering to my college academy. We're doing yoga. Some of my 18-year-old boys are looking at me as if, why are we doing yoga? We're pulling parachutes. We've got rollers to stretch out hamstrings to stop them becoming tight. We've got physios on tap, and this is at a college level. You know, at Manchester United and wherever the money allows, you've got the latest people monitoring heart rates. They've got tracking devices to see how fast they're running. So I don't think Millwall are far away from having that sort of sports conditioning, sports science, physiotherapists, doctors. They'll all be there, medical teams. They'll be assessing players. But unfortunately, injuries happen. And I'll give you the opposite of what Millwall have just had, possibly. In 1988, when the team got promoted, I would probably say that there were no injuries in the last 6 months of the season. I'd probably say that team got promoted by picking itself. Brian Hall, Keith Stevens, Nicky Coleman, Alan Walker, Alan McCleary, Les Briley, Terry Hurlock, Cascarino, Sheringham, Carter and Callaghan. I can name that 11 and I'll bet you they played most of the games and there were no injuries. But on the other hand, when I listened to Les Briley on a podcast the other night, in 1991, just about everybody was injured and you got relegated. Now there's this, you get a bit of luck in 88 and then you're unlucky in 91. And I just think it's not for the want of investment in sports science, physios, but I think the game has changed. I think it's fast. I think the injuries are probably generated by that rather than blows and concussions and leg breaks. And also there's a protection. You know, if you've got Bennet and if Gary can get 30 games out of him and 20 goals rather than 46 games and knock him into a cocked hat, you know, this is the long game. And if Bennett's got a little, you've got to look after him and protect him for the long game rather than just, you know, you smash the hell out of me. I've got scars around my face. I've got no teeth. I've got an artificial hip and I've got a wire in my toe. You know, some of these pros now will never have that experience. They're going to be looked after because we'll get through 46, 50 games in a season. So, yeah, I could go on about it because it seems to be my specialist subject, but yeah. There's an element of luck, you know. So.
Yeah. Do you feel and I'll ask Kai as well, do you feel the new training setup will be aimed at that as well? I know it's obviously it's still in its very early stages at the moment, but do you think we're the new training facilities above all this different methods and will be built all around that with the perfect pitches, etc., etc.? Kai, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it will. I think it's going to be it'll be great for the club. You know, to have all the latest machines. Not just that, in the gym as well. They'll have have all the latest fitness machines as well. So it will keep the players fit and hopefully prevent injuries as well. So you know, and I think that's what you need to be a top club. And get to the next level. I think the top clubs in this division, Fulham, they have a Fulham, West Brom, even probably Sheffield United. They have these big facilities that they can do with this sort of stuff. And also, not just that, it helps the academy come through because if you've got a place for the academy to train as well, alongside sort of the first team. I know the academy do train at Calmont Road, but the facilities aren't as good as they could be. You know, there's a pathway as well, and then also not just that. If you've got a really good training facility, you attract better and better players as well.
Can I just also chuck in if you look at Millwall's players as assets, you can't just knock them around in training. And I know Gary Rowett will, without a shadow of a doubt, and it doesn't matter what any Millwall fan says in anger, in jest, Gary Rowett will look after these assets. He will tailor-make the coaching. He will drop players out and rest them. Ballard's coming back from international duty. Does he need to train Wednesday and Thursday? No, he doesn't. He's good enough to just turn up on Friday, go through the team run, and then play Saturday. So Gary Rowett, Sir Alex Ferguson, it doesn't matter who you are. You look at these players as your assets and you have to treat them right. You know, I can remember Paul McGrath at Aston Villa. He only played games and then they locked him away in bed for a few days and then wheeled him out for the next game. So that's one extreme, whereas some young kids, you can push them. You know, the 18-year-old, they're fit as fiddles and you can train them every single day. So these managers now, and Gary will be exactly the same. They will tailor their coaching to the games. They will look at players and see how tired they are. They will monitor them every single day in training. They've got heart rate monitors. They've got trackers on them. So when people say, oh, it's crap coaching, I think it's complete opposite. It's great coaching. But injuries happen. Are they coming from games? Are they coming from training? But they'll have the best backup. They'll have the best sports science. And the coaching will be tailored. I mean, I've got a college. I've got college rugby players, college footballers, college basketball. I am a firm believer in conditioning. If you suddenly go onto a football pitch and start sprinting and you haven't done any sprinting all week, you're asking for trouble. Well, if I know that, Gary Rowett knows that. His advisors, the medical team, will know that. And as you just said, Kai, they will if they get this brand new training ground, there will be an absolutely fantastic strength and conditioning gym with the latest medical equipment, the latest weight training equipment, the rowing machines, everything will be in there to just take them to another level in terms of fitness and avoidance of injuries. So I hope it comes off because, some of the clubs that I visited, Arsenal, they got a hydrotherapy pool at their training ground in North London, up at Colney. A hydrotherapy pool. What can you do with injured players in there? Well, yeah, loads. It just takes the club onto another level, and you might even get rid of some of these injuries because of that conditioning. So yeah, it's injuries. They happen, unforeseen, but it's how you look after the assets. It's how you look after the players and how they come back conditioned, ready for the next battle.
Brilliant. So interesting, Henry and Kai. So interesting. So right, okay, we're going to take a break there now, and we're going to listen to one of our own, Patricia Maslin, talking about iFollow.
Remember Carl Bates crashing off his chair at Carrow Road? And the commentaries that he and Max McLennan gave throughout the pandemic? Well, iFollow gives you all that and the inside track on our club, with a range of benefits including live match video streams if you live outside the United Kingdom and Republic of Ireland. Live audio commentary and exclusive club content is available everywhere. Sign up today to get closer to the action. And don't forget, at least 80% of iFollow net revenue goes straight to our club. It's a great way to show your support. A basic package is free and the audio pass starts from $4.49 a month. Go to Millwall's website and select iFollow to subscribe.
Welcome back.
Millwall Community Trust football and multi-sports holiday camps will be returning this October, aligning to government guidelines on the return of grassroots sport. The Trust will be hosting the camps at the following venues: from 25th of October to 29th of October 2021, from 10am to 3pm at St Paul's Sports Centre, Salter Road, Rotherhithe, and Lions Centre, Ballina Road, SE16 3LD. The cost is £10 per day. The camps are for children and young people aged 5 to 15 years. For more information, please contact Sean Daly, sdaly@millwallcommunity.org.uk. That's sdaly@millwallcommunity.org.uk.
Fan Hub allow you to represent your club, prove your loyalty and get recognised. By travelling to games, keeping up with the latest fan content and proving your knowledge, you'll build a fan rating. Your fan rating will see you climb up the leaderboard. Because the top fan of your club, and you earn recognition and rewards like your loyalty deserves. The app is available on iOS and Android, and Fan Hub is a must for all app football fans. Visit the Fan Hub on Facebook and Twitter for further details.
And from me, don't forget the Lions Food Hub is now beside the Ballina Road car park and entrance to the Millwall Community Trust, about 50 metres from the club shop. The team at the Food Hub will accept donations of food and money on match days before our home games. If you have any queries about Millwall Football Club matters that you're unable to resolve amongst your friends, please contact Shona Groves by email at slo@millwallplc.com. That's Shona, slo@millwallplc.com, and Shona is always happy to help.
Lastly, we will be back in a month's time with another Millwall No One Likes Us Talking monthly podcast. Until then, thanks to Kai and Phil, and it's been brilliant tonight, guys. So see you next month.
Thanks very much. Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.